And I literally went on Google and word for word typed in creative jobs that make a lot of money. I feel like we were all kind of sold this dream. One thought that's constantly just been haunting me is that, does it ever get better?
And same thing when I was working with galleries, they'll always ask me like just basic things like you need to document and make sure that you make the gallerist's job as easy as possible.
I got a comment a little while ago asking me to expand on why I'm considering leaving tech and UX design in general, and I thought that was a really interesting topic to talk about. It's a tough question to answer because I'm in a situation where I can't decide if I'm just trying to leave a bad manager. You know how people say people leave bad managers, not bad companies. I'm starting to understand what they mean by that. My manager isn't a bad person. It's his first time being a manager, and we're all kind of his guinea pig right now. If I go to another job, find like a perfect setup for myself, or I actually feel passionate about the product that I'm building, maybe it'll take care of all of this negative thoughts that I'm having right now. I also thought about, what am I gonna do if I leave UX? I mean, I guess I could go back to real estate. I'm a licensed realtor in the state of Arizona. That's what supported me through UX boot camp. You know, I sold a couple houses during the first year and a half of doing that. And then I also did mobile notary for a little while, both of which are very physically demanding. And I feel like with real estate, I initially got into it because I was first of all interested in investing in real estate myself. Haven't done that yet. And second of all, I thought because realtor, it's not a corporate job, you don't have to get tied down in the office 9 to 5, therefore I'll have more time to paint. That was my thought process in the beginning when I decided to go and get my license. And it turned out not having a 9 to 5 doesn't necessarily mean more time for your art, because then your days are more sporadic, and it's just the nature of real estate where clients have different schedules, and a lot of the times you kind of want to cater to their schedule. And usually a lot of the statistics for realtors starting out is pretty grim. I think somewhere around almost 90% of the first year realtors don't sell a single house in their first year. And I was already doing better than the statistics after selling my first home. After that, I was just all right, I just gotta keep riding this high, otherwise I might not get any income at all. And then on top of that, when I added mobile notary, I was literally driving all the way from the East Valley to the West Valley, easily around 100 miles a day. And there were many times where, especially in the beginning, I would forget to get a signature on a certain page, or forget to have people mark a certain box on their document. And then I'll drive all the way back and come back, drop it off. So a lot of it wasn't just the challenges with the job, but also because of my inexperience, I had to make up for that really, really tough times. But it did get me through the first year after college as an art major with no real life experience. The internship I got while I was in college turned out to be not that great. It didn't really translate well into the real world. So I really was just struggling to find a job. And one day I said, okay, I'm done with this. This is really stupid. I can't keep doing this. And I literally went on Google and word for word typed in creative jobs that make a lot of money. I was desperate because I was so tired and exhausted, and I just needed money to survive. And the first thing that popped up was, top result was UX researcher, and then the second one after that was UX design. And interestingly enough, I was actually leaning more towards UX researcher because I think I was getting so fatigued by trying to find all these other job options to make up for my lack of like real life skills. And I was also getting a little bit resentful towards the fact that I even studied art in college. So I wanted to actually stay away from UX design that seemed like a more creative work, and UX research just seemed to me at the time like a better real grown-up job. And I did some more digging, and then I realized like no, UX design, that's what I want to do. So after that, I talked to a couple friends. My sister's friend was a UX designer at TikTok at the time. She basically recommended General Assembly for me, and I was like, all right, I don't know what it is, but it sounds like that's like the most popular program that people get into. And of course, with any other programs like that, they were really like kind of overselling the outcome. They're like, oh yeah, get a 6-figure job in 2 months. And then there's like a little asterisk with like legal disclaimer, like this is actually not true, but we're still allowed to say this because of X, Y, and Z. But I just believed it. And I was so desperate to get out of the whole like real estate, mobile notary, finding other part-time job like all the time, that I was like, you know what, I'll do it. And then just in time for that, I sold another house, and that kind of helped me survive for the next 3 months of intensive UX design boot camp. It's a full-time course every day, 5 days a week, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., basically like a job. And then the first half of the day is lectures, and then the last half of the day was like working on projects, like working on team projects and things like that.
Subscribe to the channel.
So I just got back home from my brunch with my friend, and I just had to share. She told me that I'm like one of the few people that she knows from college that's still painting after all these years, and it made me so happy. The fact that you're still doing it, you're still not completely giving up on it, that's good. That makes you an artist. We got this, friends. It is now almost 8 a.m. I stopped by AJ's, picked up this coffee and the banana. Also got this protein powder. I realized after the last couple months of like really trying to eat a certain amount of protein with every meal that it's actually a lot harder than it sounds. And I'm finally understanding why people drink protein shakes and protein bars. The sky, the sunrise was just so beautiful this morning. I genuinely feel like sunrise is so much better than sunset. And one thing that occurred to me is just how much I changed in the last 3 years. I used to be the person who wakes up at 11 a.m. on a good day. Like I'll frequently sleep in until past noon, and I'll just like sit in the room and play video games until like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. Those were the days. And from that 3 years ago to now, getting rid of my PC and working out every morning. Well, not every morning. I started off on 2 times a week schedule, and I've built up my strength enough where I actually am doing 3 times a week now. And this is the first year ever that I've been this consistent with working out. And it is the craziest thing to say out loud. I've been working out for an entire year. And the longest break I've ever had was 2 weeks. And that was back in November when I was gone for a week on a vacation in Korea, and then I came back home and I got sick for another week. So except outside of those 2 weeks, I've really been consistent and never missed more than that. And whatever workout days I missed, I made up for like the following weeks, adding in more days. Oh, speaking of Korea trip, I actually worked out at the hotel gym when I was in Korea. I've like literally, whenever I look at hotels and look at their amenities, it made no difference to me
whether or not they had a gym or not, because I knew I wasn't going to use it anyways. What's a gym? It's definitely not a place for someone like me. And this time, I worked out 2 times and I went hiking. So technically, I did do my 3 times a week routine while I was on a vacation. How crazy is that? On top of that, I went from waking up between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. to waking up at like 5:30 in the morning, going to the gym at 6 a.m. Even on no gym days, I typically wake up before like 6:30. It's just crazy. And I still remember like the first few days 3 years ago. First time I actually got up early, left the house, and saw the sunrise. I was just like, wow, this is what people see every morning. Like they start their day with this amazing view, like the sky turning orange, pink, purple. Like we live in Arizona. We're known for our sunset, but I feel like what's really, really beautiful in Arizona is the sunrise. I was like talking to my fiance, my boyfriend at the time, and I was just like, this is what you see every morning? This is like what you see every day going to work? That's insane. This is like the part of the world that I didn't know existed. So yeah, I mean, it was just a simple sunrise this morning. It was so beautiful, but it kind of like took me back in time. And I don't know, I guess it's like the end of the year. It's almost New Year's. And, you know, I'm kind of in this like reflective mindset. My progress and how much I've grown, it's just like amplified by the minute. I'm just like, oh my goodness, I can't believe 3 years ago I was a completely different person. Maybe in terms of like personality, I didn't change that much because I feel like people don't change that easily, but just the way I take care of myself has changed dramatically. I think the next thing that I should really focus on for the next year, I don't really have like a set New Year's goal for 2025 or anything like that. Maybe I need to do that, but I feel like whatever goal I set out to do earlier in the year usually tend to change throughout the year anyways. So I feel like it doesn't really matter when you start planning or when you set out like a new goal. It's just whatever you need in that moment. Anyways, what was I talking about? I lost my train of thought. But yeah, I guess I was talking about self-care. So yes, so the next thing I want to kind of work on now is sleep quality. I tend to struggle a lot falling asleep. I have a bit of insomnia, and usually if I were to like go to bed at 11 p.m., I won't actually fall asleep until like 1 a.m. And then my partner, his alarm usually goes off starting at 3:30, which has been a point of tension for a while because he's the type of person who needs to like snooze multiple times, and I'm usually like wide awake after his first alarm goes off. So like for me, like I try for 2 hours to fall asleep. I finally fall asleep at 1 a.m. His alarm goes off at 3:30, and by the time he finally gets out of bed, which is usually around like 4:30 on a good day or 5 a.m. So it's like an entire hour and a half of like alarm constantly going off. And then like by the time he finally gets out of bed, that's when I'll try to go fall back asleep. And that usually happens a lot faster because I'm exhausted by then, so I'll just pass out. I just want to like get into the routine where I stop looking at the screens like an hour or two before bedtime. And I actually had one good habit that I kind of let go last like year and a half maybe, and that is reading before bed. I always wanted to read more, but it was really hard to find time to do that. And I got my Kindle, and that really got me reading. And what I ended up doing was I'll just start reading like on my bed. Another side benefit of reading in your bed is, I don't know if it's a good thing or not when you're trying to be a better reader, but it puts me to sleep so fast. As soon as I start reading, I'll like flip through like maybe 3 or 4 pages. My brain's just like, no, gotta shut it down. Close your eyes, go to bed, sleep now. It's kind of funny thinking about it, but maybe that's a good habit to get back into because I have this new book that, well, I say new book, but I've been trying to read it for the last year, and I'm on page 30. It's really embarrassing. Anyways, I'm like actually on page 32, so a little bit better. But it's like a really big, very like not easy book. But I like where it's going. Like I know it was like really intriguing. Like when I first started reading, I was like, oh, this is such a fun book. I'm going to finish it. And I literally never went back. I might actually have to start over just to refresh on the first 30 pages. I won't really I don't want to say like, I want to read 10 books this year. I just want to read every day. That's all I care about. If that means reading 3 pages before bed, that's it. That's all I'm going to do. And if reading those 3 pages every day also leads to better sleep, falling asleep faster, and also helping me reduce my screen time a little bit, especially at night, I'll take it. I'm gonna have 1 banana, my protein bar, my AJ's coffee, and then I'll get to work. I didn't really get too much work done yesterday. It's like a kind of a weird last week of work where everybody's on PTO and there's maybe like 2 or 3 of us that are working. It's kind of nice. So I think today I'm gonna stop distracting myself and actually get some good amount of work done. I pretty much have full 8 hours of uninterrupted time to work on things. I feel like if I actually focus today, I'll probably get a lot more done today than any other work week. Try and do that, and then I'll report back. I'll also continue talking about the whole spiel about leaving tech or considering it. I know there are a lot of people talking about leaving tech and like quitting UX design, even like people who have 10 years of experience. They're like just getting up and leaving. So where are they going? What are they doing? What's their plan? What can we do as UX designers? Do we just go like work at a coffee shop? Because that's also not easy. I've done that before. It's not easy. Office job, I feel like it's so much harder to get into after like 3 rounds of interview if you're lucky. But then once you get a job, I feel like it's easier to just coast at a job. It's not like a good thing. But I've also seen, I'm sure many of you have witnessed, where you have like that 1 or 2 coworkers who are just like not really doing much. Like what do they do at work? They stay at the same job for 10 years, doing the same thing, and it's fine. You know, working at a coffee shop or minimum wage jobs, if you will. I feel like they're easier to get into, but once you get a job, you have to like work your butt off every single day, every time you're there. Because you can't really slack off at a coffee shop when you're at a Starbucks and you have to like mix 50 different drinks every hour. That's a lot of intense work. I worked as a server in high school for a little bit. I lasted like 2 months. It was so hard. But I also didn't really have the discipline that you need to be in the restaurant industry and like be a server. I didn't really have that like service mindset. Didn't really get the training. I really do feel like those jobs are harder to maintain than an office job. Anyways, I'm gonna shower, finish my food, change into my work attire. I can't work in a pajama, even though I love being in my pajama whenever I'm home, because the moment I'm comfy, not getting any work done. Hey y'all, it is Saturday, December 28th. I know I skipped Friday. I didn't really do anything at all yesterday. It was just like heads down, get some work done. I was honestly kind of slacking a little bit this week with a lot of my peers being gone on PTO. So I said yesterday, I was like, all right, I'm gonna set my focus hour, catch up on work. I'm not sure if you guys can hear Blue just going crazy with his antler he just got for his Christmas as a Christmas gift. If you hear that, I apologize. I've been trying to find a spot to film all around the house, and he just keeps following me. If I shut the door, he'll just like sit right outside the door until I open it again. So he's staying here. Anyways, where were we? So I think I started talking about the one comment that I got about why I'm thinking about leaving UX, and I think I ended up going on this giant tangent about like how I got into UX, and then like what would be some of my options going forward if I were to actually leave tech doing real estate and whatnot. And so just to kind of finish off that like whole journey of how I came to be where I am today is after that 3 months boot camp was done, I did like a couple non-paid UX work for nonprofits, worked a contract job here and there, and 2 months later, I got a job in Arizona, started working, and the rest is history. I started off as the only designer on the team, and now at the current company, I started as the first UX hire, and it got to a point where I grew the team to a team of 4. Like I said, the reason I decided to, or I'm considering leaving UX is because I'm so completely burnt out from this current job. And the thing is, I don't know if it's, I'm so burnt out to a point where I can't even muster up an energy to go and apply for another job. Like if it's so bad, then you should be doing something actively to get yourself out of that situation, right? And I've always been this like proactive person, but for some reason this time around I just can't get myself to update my portfolio, update my resume, start applying for different jobs, because job searching is a job on its own. Each time I job hopped in the last 4 years, I've been like pretty lucky that I found my job within like 2-3 weeks of like actively like working and like applying for jobs. By that statistics, if I keep kind of following that trend, that should mean that I really need 3, maybe 4 weeks of like really focused work to get myself out of this situation and find another job. I feel like we were all kind of sold this dream that like UX design was this like wonderful job where you get to do like really meaningful work. You're like advocating for the users. You're kind of like expected to have this like dynamic with the business partners where their focus is on like business, money, like whatever they're concerned with. And UX designers and UX team, product team were really there looking out for the users, which in turn will eventually also benefit business. So we're kind of like sold this like ideal, like this is like who we are. We're really like doing the good work for the people who are using this product. The reality is so different from what we've been sold. I feel like that's kind of like what's slowly been getting to me. And I feel like on top of that, with the current company structure, there's like a couple really strong voices in the organization where there's no design leadership, right? At the director level or any like C-suite, we don't have a CDO or we don't have a director of design or anybody kind of like from a design perspective, anybody who can advocate for designers. A lot of the times you'll be spending weeks, if not months of your time developing something, researching a product. And I do like end-to-end design, so I'm like doing everything, right? And I talk to stakeholders, I collect feedback, I update my design. And it really only takes one person with a strong voice in the organization to come in and be like, I like the other one better. Let's just do it that way. And that one person, that one voice usually has a power to override everything that I've ever done. I feel like in order to survive in a situation like this is for you to be detached from your product because of like who I am. And I feel like a lot of the people who get into UX design are just like very passionate people in general. It's really hard to do that. The idea that I proposed and what it could have been versus like what ended up happening, the gap between those two is just too big. One thought that's constantly just been haunting me is that, does it ever get better? Are we just collectively as an industry, is UX design as a career just becoming more and more like obsolete, where our voice doesn't get heard? We're essentially just pixel pushers. And if I leave this job and find another job, am I basically swapping one problem to another? Like essentially repeating the same pattern over and over. This is already stressing me out this much to a point where I can't even find the energy to go and apply for another job. What's really the point of me going back and like finding another job as a UX designer. Like, why not just leave? Why not just find a different career path? That's been something that I've been battling with a lot. And that's also why I talked about like what's like some of my other options here? Like real estate, notary? Like, no. I could technically go back to those, but there's a reason why I left those behind, and I don't necessarily want to go back. I feel like I have more ideas on how I can use those knowledge and my active license to my advantage without doing all the same work that I did before. But I really just feel like it's really just that, like, is this gonna get any better? And also in terms of career progression, I feel like my career growth kind of started stalling here without proper design leadership and the career path laid out. There's only so much you can do to grow if the company's coming back to you and saying like, no, we're not really planning on growing and investing in our designers or growing our team. That's like a really tough thing to deal with, especially for someone like me who has seen over, I would say, like, honestly, like 40K increase since like the very first offer letter I got to what I have now in 4 years. And for me to hear those words just killed all my motivation, all like it was like so powerful in a bad way that it killed the excitement that I had for this job. So I don't know, it's just like really, really unfortunate that it came to this. It actually got me thinking, how can I change my life? How can I change my life in a way where my income, my career isn't tied to a job, and instead I can pave my own path? I think I'm actually thinking about starting a series or starting this like experiment that I'll also be sharing on YouTube, and really trying to see if I can change my life around in the next year, next 12 months. I mean, it's kind of a perfect time to start brainstorming those ideas. It is the end of the year. It will be 2025, the new year, in just a couple of days. My life, I feel like I'm going through a lot of changes as it is already. I'm hitting a lot of milestones. I just got engaged. I will be married by February of next year. I just started a new YouTube channel. I'm going back to art. So I kind of want to ride this momentum and see just how far I can push it. So I'll share more about that in my next video. I'm actually starting a new series of videos that's basically an experiment with my own life of changing my life in the next 12 months. So if you have any ideas on how I should structure that video, leave them in the comment below. I'll definitely consider all the suggestions and ideas. I always welcome them. But yeah, that's basically it. Also, you remember this piece that I've been talking about in almost every single one of my videos. I finally found some time to start working on the bunny paintings. So these are essentially like small 4x4 bunny pieces on cut pieces of canvas. I have all of these right here. I'm also going to be painting them with more bunnies, and I am going to sew all the bunny pieces together like so. So like there's going to be like more of them, right? Like all these pieces, and they're all going to go on the edge and frame the entire piece. And then I'm going to put some backing fabric there and quilt the whole thing.
So I just got my acrylic canvas out again. I talk about how I set up this acrylic paint so the paint never dries out in another video. If you want to check it out, I'll put the video link above. So I think it's this way. I'll put the video link above somewhere on the screen, so go check it out. If you don't see it on the screen, you can always find it in the description box. This is my palette. So as you can see, I set them up. I set this palette up, I would say, more than a week or almost 2 weeks ago. Basically, whenever that video got posted, that's when I set it up. I'm still using this palette. That's how amazing this is. So go and watch that video if you want to learn how to do this. I'm sure, like, if you use acrylic a lot, I'm sure you're like, we all know how to do that. As you can see, I'm just sitting on the floor because I love sitting here, and like my dogs like to usually come and like hang out with me. So I'll set this up, and I'm gonna start. I'm gonna lower this easel a little bit, and I'm also gonna call Sage in the room so she doesn't have potty accident somewhere. Sage, come here. Hi, I need you to stay here with me. You're staying here. This one, I mean, honestly, that like the actual painting is pretty easy. As you can see, it's literally just bunnies, and they just have like different layers of like underpainting. For example, this one, it has green, but you can see like I used the red as the underpainting, so like a little bit of that pink comes through. Same thing here, blue underpainting and then red on top. So I try to use like contrasting colors for the underlayer and the top layer color, so I can kind of have this like luminous effect. This is also a pretty nice color combination, orange and purple. This is my cadmium red hue, and you could probably hear the dogs going crazy in the background. They each got an antler, so now they're just going to town with their antlers. This rag, my favorite, zinc white, to sketch out the bunny. I mean, this is fun stuff. There's really like nothing crazy going on except for this board constantly shaking. Lots of noise all around. Dryer just got done. If you hear like a little melody in the background, that's my dryer. So I just made marks here, just enough for me to see. And then I'll go in with something a little bit darker, more opaque. The key here is to like not define the edges of this rabbit too much. And rabbits also like mean something specific in my art. Whenever you see rabbits, I mean, sometimes the meaning evolves, and like depending on the context of each painting, they can be like interpreted in different ways. But basically, like the very first time I started painting rabbits, I was basically referencing back to this book I read as a kid on like math. So it's like a little children's book. It wasn't really a children's book. I think I was like 4th grade or 5th grade when I read it. Maybe even younger too. I mean, I don't know. But basically, it was this book that explained chapter by chapter, like different like mathematic concepts to kids. And this one chapter was talking about exponents. When the author was explaining like exponential growth, how oh my god, I'm like actually forgetting how to like say or read the math equation, but you know when there's like small number to the right of a number, that just means there's like, and I'll explain in another separate video like more in depth what rabbits really mean in my art. But essentially I am referencing back to this book that I read as a kid that talked about like explain mathematic concepts in like really fun ways with like illustrations. And there was this one chapter on
exponents, and they talk about like exponential growth, and the illustration they used was like rabbits and how fast they reproduce essentially. So say there's like two rabbits, right? These two rabbits, each like, these two rabbits procreated, and now there's, I don't know, 4 rabbits. Each of these 12 rabbits go and like procreate, and they each have 12 more baby rabbits or something like that. And then it was like this pyramid shape of like, starts with 1 rabbit, and then there's this many rabbits, and then there's like this many more, and within like 4 or 5 generations there's like an entire pyramid full of rabbits. And that's basically what exponent is. That image kind of like stuck with me for the rest of my life. I mean, even to this day, whenever I think about, hear that word, see that number, 4, like 5. This is the weird part about being like an English speaking person with a mother tongue that's different. I grew up speaking Korean, and like I have no problem like reading this in Korean even like years after like moving away, but then for some reason I just cannot remember how to read this. Basically this little number thing, the exponent, that's the concept the author was trying to explain using rabbits. Anytime I was in the math class talking about this, I was just like, oh yeah, I remember the rabbits. For me, rabbits kind of like signify something that's like infinitely like repeating, even though like the actual like exponent, the actual mathematic concept isn't like directly related to infinity. That's kind of like the idea that I have. It's just like there's just so many rabbits everywhere. It's like infinite cycle of like rabbits reproducing and like circle of life, things that repeat generation after generation. So I use rabbits a lot whenever I talk about like generational trauma in my art, as like a little like symbol, little token of like symbol that symbolizes the generational patterns that keep reappearing from one family to the next, one generation to the next. Anyways, so I've been kind of obsessing over painting rabbit. The very first year that I saw rabbit appear in my painting was like, I would say like 3 years ago. It's like slowly making a comeback. Because I think for a while I was also kind of sick of drawing and painting rabbits. I was like, all right, enough of rabbits. Like, I'm kind of sick of you. Kind of sick of you. Kind of sick of painting these cute creatures. So I took a break, but as a concept and as a tool to incorporate storytelling in my painting and my work, I still very much love rabbits. So that's it. 1 rabbit's done. I'll take this off, and the thing is, this top part needs to be painted separately. So for the top part, I usually just take the very top darkest color and just cover it up. And it's okay because when I go to sew everything together, there's going to be a 1/4 inch seam allowance on all 4 directions. So that area is going to get covered up mostly anyways, but you still don't want like a white canvas edge there. So there you have it. And now I just got to repeat this process a gazillion times with all of these cut canvas pieces, and then I'll be done. There you have it.
It's been a little over 3 hours, and this is how much progress I've made so far. It seems like a simple task, but it's taking quite a bit of time. Today is Sunday. Honestly, still full from the breakfast burrito at noon and milk tea and mochi donuts. So I'm thinking maybe have like a really simple dinner later. I actually wanted to add some things to what I said about leaving tech, getting into UX, like the whole career progression that I like went through. I don't want to come off as like ungrateful for all the things that I have now. I did work really hard to come to where I am today, career-wise. To be honest, if I went back, time traveled back to 2020, I would have made the same exact decision, knowing everything that I know now. UX design truly is one of the best careers you can have as an artist. And I think there's real value in having that corporate work experience as an artist. Part of the reason I struggled so much in 2017 as a young artist getting into galleries is because I lacked those critical skills that you tend to learn and get better at, doing a corporate job. I have a bit of a scatterbrain, not a bit, I have major scatterbrain. I don't know if it's just like an artist thing, but I'm not naturally like a super organized person. One thing that I'm realizing as I'm like also incorporating like content creation, posting long form videos on YouTube with a full-time job is that I could have not done any of this as effectively and like manage my time as effectively as I am now if I didn't have this corporate experience. And what I mean by that is before everything that I ever did was like more like intuitive, and I didn't really know how to plan for things. Being in corporate kind of pushes you in that direction where other people need to know what you're working on, what's your status, and like they need to be able to understand at once like where you are. So that way, if it's a team member who works closely with you, they understand like that the project is moving along, or if there's any blocker, they also need to know about that. All of that stuff needs to be communicated in a way that's not like confusing. Your job essentially is to make sure that when people work with you, part of what you learn working a corporate job is to make sure that when people work with you, it's generally a pleasant experience. Starting a YouTube, it's a really fun thing to do, but at the same time, it's also a huge time commitment. I have this Notion template set up with ideas, content calendars. I have bullet points of like talking points. I have screenshots of thumbnail ideas from like other channels and like other comparable niche so that I can like model after that. I'm putting together, it's slow, it's a work in progress, but I'm putting together like a brand guideline so that way as I create more videos, my thumbnail, the colors, the brand voice, all of that starts to feel more cohesive. I understand that the first few videos have kind of been like all over the place. I identified that as like one of the areas that I can improve early on, so I'm putting together a document for that. And it also helped in the case that I go back to working with an editor again. I have all those documents ready for me to just like send that document over for them to understand immediately, like, okay, so this is the brand voice, brand identity she's going with. These are the font and typography that she's using. These are the colors that she likes to use. It's imperfect and it's not like the top of my list, but at least I'm starting to put together a document that can be served as like a source of truth for everything. And all of these things, it would have not occurred to me to do if I got into it 10 years ago. I feel like I might have eventually figured it out, but it would have taken me a lot longer for me to do that because I just never had to be that organized outside of a corporate job. Even when I did real estate, it's like a 1099 type of job where you don't really have a boss. I mean, yes, you have a broker and you have to hang your license in a broker's office, but that's about it. They don't really dictate how you spend your day, how you talk to your clients. Up until I got into UX design, I really didn't have any sort of structure where I had to be this organized. Same thing with art school. Like, yes, it helps to be more organized, and I was just a complete mess and a chaos during the entire 4 or 5 years of college. I took gap years multiple times, so it was just like all over the place. I kind of relied on a few good friends during college to remind me, like, hey, so by the way, that big painting, that big report, it's due like in 2 days. You want to work on it together? Did you finish it? Bless my friends for doing that. The thing is, you can't rely on other people to help you in those situations forever. And I think I only got away with it because I was a young college kid, but it wouldn't necessarily fly too well in a corporate adult world. And same thing when I was working with galleries, they'll always ask me like just basic things like you need to document and make sure that you make the gallerist's job as easy as possible. They want your dimensions, title, material, your artist statement. You want to send them your artist resume, website, all those things. And if it's even better if you have like a very clean like PDF or some sort of PowerPoint deck or somewhere where they can see all of that information and digest it in an easy way. And I didn't know how to do that. And my brain was such like a mess that even doing that took so much out of my day. Like it took me so much effort just to get out of my bed and take the measurement of my paintings, sending them the artist statement. Like if I have to do that now, like that'll be easy. I'll get out of my bed. Okay, this is what I have to do. I already have a Notion template where I document and take inventory of all of my pieces, existing pieces, sold pieces. I had to actually go back in time and dig out that information. Like I sold something around like 17, 18 pieces in 2017, and I realized I didn't have any proper documentation where I kept track of all those things. And I also don't have a single contact information of the clients and customers who purchased my art before, which is a huge, like, for me, looking back at it now, I'm like, what were you thinking? It's like the most basic thing you can do, like take their information down, phone number, name, email address, which piece they liked, what they bought, if you had any like small talk with them, like what did you guys talk about? So years later, that was like, what, almost 10 years ago now. 10 years later, if I have a new show, I know the first 17 people that I can reach out to and be like, hey, I have a new show. You liked my work before. Are you interested? Or, hey, I have a new show coming up. Here's the brochure for the show. Here are all the pieces that are going to be a part of my show. Or like whatever, like depends on how you strategize. But those like basic presentation and organizational skills, I feel like I definitely gained from corporate job. So that's huge. Another big thing that I'm forever grateful for is income. I never once thought after graduating college as an art major that I would make anything near what I'm making now. I make 6-figure income, and that's just insane to think about. Like how? I didn't study engineering in college. I genuinely didn't know how I was going to survive in the real world. So that's why like the first year while I was doing real estate, I was also looking into like drop shipping business and all sorts of like money making gurus and what they sell you. I was just all about it. I was like, okay, like teach me how to do it, because I don't see a viable career option that I can like rely on for income. And the fact that I'm even considering leaving UX and like pouring my heart back into art, all that stuff, it's only possible because I'm in a place where my basic needs are taken care of. I don't have to worry about paying the bills every single day. And that's huge. That's really big. I feel like before, especially like before I got into UX, when I was doing real estate, I never knew when my next paycheck was going to come, right? Like, yes, it's nice, I sold a house, but my next
paycheck could be 3 months from now, a year from now. Like I didn't have, an established lead coming in, established system where I had like constant like leads coming in. I was making a lot of sales calls, but I wasn't that good starting out. So a lot of the cold calls that I made, they didn't go too well. When you're worried about that, there's literally no time for you to think about like, oh, I gotta start a YouTube channel and like maybe I need to like follow my passion and start painting. Like it doesn't even occur to you when you're in that mindset and you're like in a survival mode. And UX design is what got me out of that survival brain into more like abundant mindset where I'm like, I'm at a good place. I can go and chase my dream. I have options now. And the fact that I'm even living in a house with a backyard with pretty lights, I know some people might look at this and be like, yeah, that's an okay looking backyard, but for me it's huge. This is a huge upgrade compared to a couple years ago when I didn't even know if I could pay my rent for a tiny 500 square foot studio, and I ended up moving back in with my parents. That was only 4 years ago. I just want to say, for art majors or anybody who's like just freshly out of college or looking for a creative job. Like I said, I literally Googled creative job that pays a lot of money. The first thing that popped up was UX design, and I still stand by it. You have to first get to a place where you feel safe, your needs are met, and you're not hungry, you have roof over your head. That's the first thing you need to take care of. Then you can start to think about other options. At the end of the day, if my YouTube doesn't take off, I don't even know how I would even define that. I haven't really sat down and thought about what success looked like for me. But in any case, like if I'm in it for a long game, if I do this for 2-3 years and not make a single dime, that is okay. Ideally, I'll find a better working situation where, I feel supported at an organization that invests in their UX team. That would be ideal. That'd be the best. But just the fact that I'm at a point where I can complain is a blessing on its own and a huge privilege. As you can probably tell, we're very close to a large street, so it can be quite loud. I hope the noise isn't too bad. I got the little wind thingy, the little fluffy thing on my mic, so hopefully it filters out a lot of this noise. This is my first time filming outdoors, outside, with this mic, so hopefully it's doing a good job filtering out all these noise. I just wanted to say that while I am considering leaving tech, or I should say I'm considering another option, a better option for a lot of young artists who inevitably have to find a day job and other means to support themselves, getting into UX is a good idea. It's a tough market right now, and I think it's not just UX, it's just hard to find true entry-level job across the board. A lot of the entry-level jobs are being replaced by AI features, I feel like. But there are still opportunities out there if you want to start slow and start working, taking on freelance job, take low paying freelance opportunities and slowly build up your portfolio. Eventually the right opportunity will come, and eventually you will find a solid, stable job. And when that time comes, you'll find that your creativity starts to thrive again. It'll pour out of you, and you're gonna want to keep making things, as opposed to the other scenario where you're in a survival mode. It's really hard to find or squeeze out the little bit of creativity that's left, because you're using so much of your energy into surviving, and it leaves not much to work with at the end of the day when it comes to creating things. Just wanted to share a little bit of gratitude as we wrap up the week. It's New Year's Eve in 2 days. I just want to share this with you, as well as remind myself just how lucky I am to be where I am today. Alrighty, that was enough chit chat. I'm actually gonna go and start making dinner.
Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah,
That's a lot more than I thought.
not gonna finish.
Starting tomorrow, I am only eating kimchi with no rice for dinner.
That's recorded.
Diet.
This is a soft tofu for like soup and stuff, so I'm not gonna dump it all in the pot. I'm actually gonna boil hot water and then pour hot water over tofu and then stir fry kimchi to go with tofu. So I'm gonna try to get it to track my face. Maybe it's more interesting this way. This is kimchi we made almost 2 years ago, and it's been fermented beautifully. Probably only gonna need half of this. I'm gonna cut it down the center, this direction. Put the rest of it back in there. What I originally wanted to do with this tofu kimchi, or tubu kimchi, was to stir fry kimchi with some pork belly. Kimchi goes so well with pork belly. If you ever want to just stir fry something and you have kimchi in the fridge, and that's like what I was initially thinking about serving up. But the pork belly we bought for tubu kimchi has officially gone bad. I'm not crying. It's so hard, like the steak is so much higher nowadays with like the prices going up, where if you don't use up all the ingredients, I just feel so guilty. So that's why I'm like, all right, we gotta start using up all these ingredients. I'm not gonna waste any more food. I'll put this away. This is so cool. If you ever want to get into content creation, just do yourself a favor and get the DJI gimbal. It's such a fun gadget to have. And honestly, I would even go as far as to say getting this DJI gimbal is what actually got me to start creating. I know I keep saying I've been like thinking about becoming a YouTuber for the last 10 years. The last 3 years, it's just been like a more intense thing where I'm like, I really finally want to start this. I just don't know what topic or what I even want to talk about. So it's just like about like, oh, like, do I have to niche down? Whatever, all that stuff. I don't really worry about that anymore. But during the Paris trip, my soon-to-be father-in-law bought me this DJI gimbal. He was just like, hey, we're going to Paris, you know, have this so you can like film, take pictures if you want, you know, it's a special opportunity. He's really into photography himself, so he's like all about like gadgets and tools and all that stuff, and he like bought me this gimbal, and I like set it up, played around with it, and I was just like, oh my god, this is so cool. Like, I was never really interested in any of these like gimbal setup, or to be honest, I didn't even know you had tools like this in the market for your cell phone. And I think, you know, initially I bought this like Sony ZV-1F camera, and that was like kind of hard to film. I mean, it's all just an excuse, but using your cell phone with a gimbal, game changer. It makes everything so much easier. So if you're thinking about starting a YouTube channel and you're wondering what are some of the gears that I need to buy to get started, I know a lot of people are just like, you just need your cell phone, you don't even need a tripod, just like stack up books, whatever. Stacking up books never really worked out for me, because I'm like, stack up books on what surface? How high do I have to stack up those books? It just didn't make any sense to me, and I never really managed to film without a tripod. So I would definitely say gimbal or a tripod, whatever you like, or whatever is within the budget, because I think DJI gimbal is kind of pricey. I never looked into it. If you have the budget for it, then I would absolutely recommend DJI gimbal, because it changes everything, and it makes it, even the footage that was filmed on my phone, like from Paris, I'm like filming as I'm walking down the street, and it doesn't even look like I'm walking. It just looks like a professional footage. Obviously, if you compare it to an actual professional film, then you can tell, but you know what I'm saying. It just looked like this smooth, like street view video, and I was just like going, oh my god, I love this. I love it. And the mic, because I actually just listened to the audio recording just now from the backyard, and it's like it didn't pick up on any of the noise from the street, the cars driving by, the fireworks going off. It was really loud outside, and you can hear my voice so clearly. Highly recommend these two tools.